Is it just me, or does it seem like Jesus Christ is on his way? Is it just me, or could it be that it could happen any day?
So we're continuing on in our study, the names of God. And interesting, as hopefully you're picking up on this as we go through the study, you'll see a lot of combinations of the name of God. We talked about Yahweh Adonai the other day, and we see a lot of other things when we went through. We talked about Elam Kadesh, the God who is holy, the God who makes holy, or Jehovah Jireh, the God that provides. And so we're breaking down some of those names. We talked about Yahweh, Jehovah, and how that is the personal name of God, and it shows us that personal relationship that he seeks with us. Last week we talked about Adonai, and Adonai is Lord or Master or Owner, and it describes that he is rightfully the owner of this whole earth. He is the creator of it, and so he owns it. And today we're going to look at Elohim. Elohim. And El, that part of the word El, simply means strength and unlimited power. That's El. And a lot of times in the Bible, you'll see El this, El that, or it talks about God. That word there is El. And El is the strength and unlimited power. When we say Elohim, we are adding in to keep a promise. So strength and power to keep a promise. That's what Elohim means. We named our son Jonathan Eli. Jonathan means beloved. Eli means of God. And I think God does love our son. He is faithful, but he's not perfect, but he's faithful. Well, Elohim means the strong and powerful one, and it maximizes his power, but also to keep a promise. And when we think about El and Elohim, El, God, Elohim, that Ohim makes it masculine, that's why we say God is a man, and plural. So when we talk about Elohim, we're talking about a masculine plural God, not multiple gods, but one God that is plural. We'll get into that in just a moment. But the term Elohim is used over 2,500 times in the Old Testament. And the plural, a more literal interpretation, is the plural of majesty. It's emphasizing God's sovereignty, supreme power, and divine fullness. He's the righteous judge, and he is the sustainer of all that is. Now, if you look at Elohim against Yahweh, again, Yahweh means he is personal, seeking that relationship with his people. Elohim focuses on his great power and majesty. And so Yahweh, our God, the God, and if you say Yahweh, you're saying everything that is God, every aspect of him is wrapped up in that. But if you say Elohim, it's referring to his power. And the first place that we see the word Elohim is in the first verse of the Bible. If you go to Genesis chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1. And I will read the first 5 verses as written, and then I will go back and I will substitute Elohim. And so we see in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And he said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the night day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Now let me go back in and read that, substituting Elohim. It says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light, and Elohim saw the light, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And so as we go through, we see Elohim as creator. That's our first presentation of God in the Bible. God creator. In the beginning, he created all these things. We see the majesty and the power of God. He is the creator of the universe and all that is therein. It talks about his ownership. Adonai is Lord. Adonai is the one that we worship. Elohim is why we worship. Okay, give that division. We worship the Lord, Adonai, but we worship the Lord Adonai because he is Elohim, the powerful one. And again, where Yahweh talks about his personal relationship with men, Adonai talks about his ownership of all. Elohim focuses on the fact that only he has the power and ability to create and sustain. He's the only one that can create and sustain. In fact, when you see in the first few passages in the Bible, the first few verses, it says that he created light. Remember this, he created light before he created the sun, the moon, and the stars. You could literally say, Amos, you could literally say when it says he created light, he created energy. He put all the energy out there. And ultimately, what is the greatest source of energy in our galaxy? The sun, right? In our solar system, we'll say. It's the sun. You know, we've spent billions of dollars trying to capture that energy with solar panels and to use it. And certainly it is useful. But the idea is we can only capture a very small amount of that energy. And it all depends on clouds and everything else. But when the clouds are over us here, we can't see the sun. The sun is still there. Now, I call your attention to that creation of energy and the sun because we're going to get to that in a little bit. It's important you understand all of that. Later on, after Elohim creates all that there is, verses 28 and 29 of the creation, after the creation of man, he says, Elohim blessed them, and God, not using Elohim there, said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for bread. And so the first thing I want you to see here, as creation was completing, God's created man. First, he's created the perfect environment for men. This outside right now is not a perfect environment for men. Okay? We have to bundle up, we have to heat, we have to do all these things to survive in this environment. When God created man, it was in the Garden of Eden, a perfect place. A place that was warm enough that Adam and Eve could walk around without any clothes on and be comfortable. Not because of being shy, because it was before they understood that they were naked, but physically they could be comfortable. To eat, all they had to do is walk over to a tree and pick the fruit, or a bush or whatever. It was a perfect environment for man. So he's created this perfect environment, then he puts man on this earth, and he says the guy isn't going to do very well on his own, he needs help, so he creates Eve. And it says that he looked and he blessed them. The next understanding that we should have is that Elohim, the powerful God, the creator of all it is the one that blesses us. And that is the nature of God. The all-powerful one to look at us as creation and choose to bless us. Everything we have, the Bible tells us later on, every good and perfect thing is from God. It comes from him. Whatever talent, whatever ability we may have is because he gave it to us. If you have a job and you can feed yourself and feed your family and pay the bills, he has blessed you. Never miss the fact that all we have, every good thing we have, is a blessing of God. And so he made it. I remember when I was young, I had a Yamaha 100, and there were trails all over the place in Hamden and Herman and Winterport. And I used to ride my bike all over the place. And you'd be riding, and you'd come to a place, and there'd be blackberry bushes. And we'd stop, and we'd eat some blackberries. You'd go through the middle of nowhere, there's an old apple orchard, and we'd eat apples, or strawberries, or whatever it was, whatever was growing. Because God, someone planted it, yes, they did. But they're long gone. There's an apple orchard, and you'd go around, and there's nothing but a foundation, a crumbling foundation left. Because while God made man to tend the garden, God also made the fruit to multiply. And that's one of the blessings that he gave to us. He said, go out, subdue the earth, multiply. He told man, I gave this to you. The great creator of all it is says, I made this for you. Now, he gave us not just dominion over all the things, but he gave us conservancy over it. Okay, if you hunt all the dodo birds and kill them all, I will not give you another one. They're gone. It's up to you to take care of what you've got. But don't get to the point where the earth and the care of the earth becomes higher than your respect for the Creator. Not the creation over the Creator first and foremost. He instructed us to be fruitful and multiply, to go out and replenish, have families. And we'll get to Romans 1 in a little bit, where we find one of the big problems in our world today is people aren't thankful that God created the family as He created it. We want to redefine it, make it something it was never meant to be. A family is all about a man and a woman coming together, having children, raising those kids, raising the next generation, teaching them about the Lord. We're teaching the kids about the book of Judges now, the older kids. Judges is all about God makes it really good for the people. And so they get so full of themselves that they get to the point where they rebel against God. And so God lets their enemies have dominion over them and conquer them and enslave them and persecute them. And so they cry out to God, and God restores them, and it's a cycle. It goes round and round and round. I mentioned last week, Monday of last week, I didn't mention it in church, but Monday of last week, Bonnie was sitting in her office, and a mouse comes out from the eaves. We got eaves on both sides, a little door, and a mouse comes out, and he walks over to the cat food. He looks up and he sees Bonnie. Oh, I'll come back later. And he just waddles back in under the eaves. And Bonnie said, it's broad daylight. That's enough. That's enough. And so we took I got a couple pails at Home Depot, and we put a coat hanger with a can and peanut butter and put some water in the bottom. And someone said, put antifreeze, it'll work quicker. No, we got a cat. I don't want the cat in that. But you put water in the bottom and a little ramp. And so we set those up, a couple mouse traps. And the next morning I got up and I went in where that mouse had gone in, and I looked, and there was a mouse in the bucket. I said, what about the other side? The other side where it's easier for them to come up because of the way the house was built on. I go over to the other side, and there's 7 mice in that one. We've got 12 mice so far that we've caught that way. And the cat's getting very bored, but that's okay. But we've caught 12 mice. Something I shared, and this is kind of a tangent. I'll just tell you this. They did a survey, a study, where they took mice and they put them in a bucket, and they let them, and after just a couple minutes, when the mouse realizes it can't get out, it gives up. It just a couple minutes. And I told Bonnie, and Bonnie was like, oh, I feel bad. Listen, God made those to feed other creatures, okay? They understand, you watch a mouse, and the cat brought one in the bedroom one day, and the mouse was squeaking back at the cat. They don't normally do that. They just give up, basically. But they found out when the mouse stops trying and gives up, you take the mouse out of the water, you dry it off, you let it recover, you give it some food, you wait a day and you put it back in the bucket. The next day it'll swim for hours because it has hope. That's a different lesson, guys. It's a different lesson. But it will. It will. Another study with mice, I can't remember the name of it, had some silly name, but it's from the 70s, I think. This fellow said, what would happen if you gave mice the perfect living condition? Mice didn't have to worry, all the food they could want, all the breeding opportunities, all the room, and so they built a lab, and they had all these little cubby holes and plenty of material to make nests. And they put several mice in there, and the mouse population exploded. It exploded. The place, and they just kept adding on, and they had thousands of mice. But after the first generation, of course, they reproduced and reproduced. Somewhere down the road, the mice became lethargic. They didn't want to run around, exercise. They just slept in. They got up and they ate, and they went back to sleep. They stopped breeding together. In fact, you had some male mice that hung out together and some female mice that hung out together with each other. Then you started having these gangs of mice that attacked each other. And it ended up the whole colony died off because they had their needs met and nothing they had to do. When God put Adam and Eve in the garden, he gave them things to do to keep them busy. There's something to be said for working and putting in a day's labor and enjoying the fruits of those labors. And so he made the garden for them and he gave them that dominion, but God never made them just to sit around and do nothing. Star Trek had this idea of the universe. There was what do they call it? The replicator. You know, the last series they had Earl Grey tea, hot. And there's the Earl Grey tea, and he drank it, you know, whatever. You just went up and asked for it, and it made it for you. They said, because of that, because it's cheap technology, it can make anything out of anything. There'll be, nobody's going to have to work anymore. This universal income and all this stuff. And sounds like a great idea. But that's what they did with the mice. And really, we're not that much better than mice when it comes to society. Someone said, if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. You're just head rat. That's all that means. And so God created this. Elohim created this. And he blessed men. He blessed us by telling us to have families. He blessed us by telling us, go out and find a place and make a home for yourself. He blessed us by giving us dominion over the animals. There's not an animal out there we can't track down and kill. I mean, we can do it. What about the cockroach? We can kill them too, right? To kill them all would probably kill everything else on earth, but we could do it. He also made provision for us, for our sustenance, that we could have food, we could keep going. He made that provision for it. It puts it in perspective. He created this whole planet for us to use and to enjoy. He also gave us that conservancy. Use the resources wisely. Share them with others. And then in verse 31, at the end of creation, it says, Elohim saw it was all good. That's because he made it. And he is the source of good. He is the power and the majesty. He doesn't make junk. Everything he makes is entirely good. Now, you might look in the mirror and think, my nose is a little too big, my forehead's too big, my hair's falling. I noticed Carol Conley, I saw his picture the other day, and I said, Carol's got more forehead now too, right? We all do. Still got dark hair, but a little bit more forehead. We might look and we might not be happy with what we see, but understand this, God doesn't make junk. He made you the way he made you for a reason and for a purpose. Psalm 19 is the next place we're going to go because this gives us some more understanding about Elohim, about God. Psalm 19, the first 6 verses. Psalm 19, verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of El. Again, that's an abbreviation, Elohim. Again, we see the power of God in creation. The whole psalm is about elevating God above anything man can hope to accomplish. Elohim is declaring himself through his creation. We see him in the observable word around us. Let me turn to Psalm 19, and we'll read the first 6 verses. Just a moment here. Psalm 19, verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Right in the right place? No, one more. There we go. And that literally means, the firmament shows his handiwork, literally means his finger painting. Day unto day uttereth strength, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them has he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is his bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoicing as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it. And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament shows his handiwork. What he's talking about here, we see the power of God in creation, the whole psalm about elevating him. Elohim declaring himself through his creation. He says there's not a language that doesn't understand that everything is and came to be, somehow. The observable world around us, the work of Elohim, is him declaring to us that he exists. and everything has a place in his plan and order. Even the very sun itself is dropped to the status of a man putting on his best clothing for his wedding day. God is above even the sun, shining his light on his creation. Now think about this. He says the sun is like a guy on his wedding day putting on his tuxedo, tying his tie, right? He'll never tie a tie like that again in his life probably. But tying his tie, he gets himself ready. Why? Because he's going to go and see his bride. It's interesting that he doesn't compare the glory of the sun to the bride, because wouldn't that make more sense? Isn't the bride the one that's supposed to be glorious and beautiful on the wedding day, not the husband? So why the husband? Why do they talk about him? It talks about the sun being part of God's creation, giving light, and it says all things are lit by it. The sun, there's nothing more powerful in creation that you and I can see, at least as far as we know. But God is above all of that. And he says the sun, like the bridegroom, it's alluding to Christ, our bridegroom, and we are the bride. And that's why it doesn't say the bride, it says the bridegroom, because the bride is illuminated by the sun, by the bridegroom, by Jesus. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Turn back to Deuteronomy chapter 8. Deuteronomy chapter 8, first 4 verses. As they're proceeding and ready to go into the promised land, he says, all the commandments which I command thee this day shall you observe to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which Yahweh, personal God, swear unto your fathers. And thou shalt remember all the way which Yahweh Elohika is the possessive of Elohim, led thee these 40 years into the wilderness, to humble thee, to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou would keep his commandment or no. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man does not live by bread only, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Lord does man live, and that Lord is Yahweh. Thy raiment waxed not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. So he says, Yahweh, promise maker, Adonai, okay, Elohim, God the promise keeper. So Yahweh promised it to you, and the Lord, your God, Yahweh Elohim, led thee these 40 years in the wilderness. Only God has the power to stop the second law of thermodynamics, which he did. He points out that for 40 years their sandals lasted. Anybody here know a pair of sandals you can buy today that you can walk every day, miles and miles and miles, that will last for 40 years without any wear or tear on them? They don't make such things. God saw to it that he preserved them through the time that they were traveling in the wilderness and going through the punishment they had for their unfaithfulness. Yet in their unfaithfulness, and it talks about that, he said he humbled them, he taught them. When they rebelled and said, we want to go back to Egypt, God said, listen, you're going to, instead of going directly in the land I promised you that I prepared for you, you're going to wander for 40 years. So this generation, this unfaithful generation, this generation that wasn't happy with what I'd made for them, this generation is going to die off. The next generation is going to raise up as nomads, traveling. They're going to be led by a cloud of smoke during the day and a cloud of fire at night, a physical presence of God. That's going to be part of their life, their experience. And they're going to follow God for 40 years. They're going to grow up following God. But he says, Elohim, Yahweh, who made the promises, Elohim, who is keeping the promises, I'm going to see to it that you're protected through this. I'm going to provide for you. I'm going to suspend entropy. That is, things aren't going to fall apart. And the commandment is to remember how he is able and to be humble before him. Be humble before him. He provides for us. He takes care of us. He disciplines us when necessary. He humbles us when necessary. But don't ever forget his obligation to provide for us. Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Where do we start in our prayer? Recognizing who we're praying to and hallowing his name, right? Elohim, hallow that name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. God, you want to come back today? I'm ready. I'm ready any moment. Call my name, I'm coming home. I'm ready, Lord, just waiting. I tell people, when the church says someone passes away and we say, you need anything, let us know. I tell them, it's not like we're just saying that to be polite. Boy, I hope they don't ask us for anything. When we say, you need anything, let us know, it's like we're sitting on the bench thinking, Coach, say the word. Coach, put me in. Coach, I'm ready. Just give me the opportunity. The idea here is that we are standing and waiting for this God who loves us and provided for us and promised to take care of us, this provider. And wherever we find ourselves, let's keep going in the Lord's Prayer. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, I submit myself to your will because you are Adonai and you are Yahweh, so I submit to you because of the power that you have through Elohim. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Elohim, the provider, right? The blesser. What do we say, or what are we supposed to say before we eat? We say grace. What do we say when we're saying grace? We ask God to bless the food. It's a blessing that we have it to begin with. But we're asking him to bless the food. And then what do we say? Give us this day our daily bread. And then we say, forgive us. Forgive us, Lord. We were out at Charleston and they had right in the bulletin, they said Lord's Prayer, and then right next to it, just the words Lord's Prayer. They didn't have it written out, but next to it they had the word trespasses. Because you can say debts, you can say trespasses. Different churches say different things. Because there's two different places where you can see that. We don't ask for forgiveness until we have praised God. We don't ask for forgiveness until we've submitted to God. We don't ask for forgiveness until we ask for our needs. That's when we ask for forgiveness. Elohim is not withholding what we need unless it's what's best for us to withhold that thing. But even when we choose not to obey him, not to serve him, we choose to live for ourselves, even then he's providing for us and blessing us. The Bible says that the rain falls on the good and the evil. Elohim is such a great and powerful God that his power spills over not just to his own kids, but to the whole earth. The whole earth. He's that powerful. We also see in this that the commandment to remember he is able is to go back and remember what he's done in the past, how far he's brought us, and how far he's taken us. And we can trust him to be faithful because he says his name Elohim means the almighty, powerful God who keeps his promises. Romans chapter 1. I said we'd get to Romans, so we're going to go to Romans now. Romans chapter 1 kind of gives us a New Testament application of all of this. Romans chapter 1, and we'll start in verse 18. Romans 1 chapter 18 says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness." That is, they know better. "Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to the corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things." Elohim, the great creator, revealing himself to us through all that he's created, not just the things, but emotions, desires, the ability to think and to reason, logic, mathematics, all the things that he has revealed to us point to him. And he says there are folks out there that are going to reject him, but they know better. There really are no atheists. They claim there's no God, but they can't reason him away. We talk about, well, there was nothing, and then there was this explosion, and everything came to be, and the odds against that are astronomical. And then to take it from just the creation of all, okay, so I've seen explosions, and I've seen things happen. They detonated, the first time they detonated an atomic bomb, the tower, the structure, the steel structure they had turned into some kind of plastic. It was the intense heat and radiation and everything else transformed the elements and made something different. Okay, so maybe that's where everything came from. But that doesn't explain life. It doesn't explain how we're able to see and think and feel and the colors and everything else that we have. It doesn't explain it. Elohim has revealed himself to everyone, and we all have an obligation. But it says people knowing that there is an authority, there's an Adonai, and they don't want to worship Adonai, Yahweh. They want to have things their way, so they reject God, Elohim, the Creator. Now, you can reject him if you want, but you're still going to stand in front of him one day. And the difference in standing before God and having him say, well done, thou good and faithful servant, and having him say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, I never knew you. The difference is Jesus Christ, his relationship with us. And once again, we can tie Elohim to Jesus because it tells us in the New Testament he was there at creation, he is God. So Jesus is our physical representation of Elohim. The miracles that he did, including the final miracle, raising from the dead, those point to the God of creation. The name Elohim is not of a God, or not of God as a judge per se. However, Elohim reveals the Godhead in terms man should be able to observe and understand, and in so doing, give praise and honor to the great Creator and establish that we in and of ourselves cannot hope to compare to him, including the ability to save ourselves. We can't compare. I've said it several times, but Martin Luther said, who are we to think that our works would be more acceptable to God than the works of Jesus Christ and what he did for us? Jesus said, I did all these things for you. I laid down my life for you. I laid down my life to purchase you back, to forgive your sins, to justify you, to clear the record. I did this for you. Who are you to say, yeah, but I gave some money to someone, and I was nice to my neighbors, and who are we to say that what we do could compare in any way, shape, or form? As we're going through this, Yahweh, Adonai, Elohim, the thing that we keep seeing is the majesty of God, how far above us he is. And in Yahweh, we see this God so far above us, still wanting a relationship with us. And in Adonai, we see the owner, the master of everything, still wanting to provide for us and take care of us. And in Elohim, we see the Creator, the power of God that is used for our good, for our benefit, to take care of us. We read just a little bit ago about manna. They were hungry. They had at least 1 million, maybe 2 million people that had left Egypt and no food. Logistics to feed that many people are crazy. And yet God said, okay, it'd be real simple. You're going to wake up in the morning and there's going to be this little stuff, and you just gather it up, and it's going to eat like bread, and it's going to taste like honey. And it's going to give you all the energy you need. It's not going to make you fat. It's going to be good for you. It's going to give you all the nutrients. I will sustain you through this very simple thing. Then he told him, now don't try and hoard it. Don't try and gather up enough for tomorrow and the day after, because it's spoiled almost immediately. Except on the day before the Sabbath. Then you take twice as much as you're going to need, because I don't want you working on the Sabbath. We're still going to observe that. So take twice as much as what you need, and that won't rot. So every day, they gathered manna, and anything that was left over rotted away before nightfall. Yet on the day before the Sabbath, on what we would call Friday, the day before the Sabbath, they gathered twice as much, and it kept enough for the next day. Elohim, the provider, the sustainer, the creator, created that for them. Has anybody seen manna since then? We haven't. We haven't. We don't know, other than the biblical description, what it was. And it's not a natural phenomenon. Have you ever heard of someone out hiking and all of a sudden there was this stuff and if you picked it up, it ate like bread and tasted like honey? No. God, the sustainer and provider, took care of his people and did it miraculously to show them his power. And he takes care of us. The miracle of life, the miracle of family, the miracle of having a warm place to live and having the clothes we need, the miracle of his provision, Elohim. He created all it is, and he provides for us through his creation. Father, I do thank you for the way you've revealed yourself to us. And there's a lot more we're going to go through and cover. A lot of the names that you take for yourself are combinations to remind us the personal God who heals, or Elohim, and the God who is holy. Lord, there are combinations that we're going to learn as we go through this, but Lord, I just thank you for finding a way to tell us about your character, who you are, and about how we should relate to you. And I just thank you that you want that relationship with us. And so I ask your blessing on us, Lord. I ask if there's someone here that isn't living the way they should, Lord, that they would take steps and understand that it's the creator of all that is overseeing our lives. And even though we might not be living the way we're supposed to live, still have food to eat, still have clothes to wear. Lord, help us to praise you, not because you make us, but because of our gratitude, our thankfulness to you, how good you've been to us, Lord. Lord, just ask you to bless us today and all that we do. And Lord, the rest of the day, we might find opportunity to praise you and worship you and think about even driving home out in the sunlight today to feel the sun. It's cold out, but in the car, it'd be nice to be in a nice warm car and have the sun on your face. And Lord, just thank you for Elohim, the great creator. Bless us, we ask, in Jesus' name. Amen.